Hello, world out there on United We Stand sessions. I'm Christina Tobin with Free and Equal Elections. We're doing this 3 days a week now, maybe even more in the future. I want to welcome our presidential candidate, well, one of a few, but he's running with the Green Party of the United States as president, Howie Hawkins. Howie Hawkins, sorry, welcome to the sessions.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
I've known you for over a decade, so I should definitely have your name right out of the bat. But Howie Hawkins, thank you, first of all, for running for president, for caring about our country and taking action and doing something. That's how we bring about real cultural change and shift. You're out of New York City, meeting you. You're like such a down-to-earth, everyday sort of guy, the kind of person that should be running for office, and you are for president. Can you let people know who you are, who aren't aware of maybe the Green Party or the fact that you, Howie Hawkins, are running for president with your vice presidential running mate, I think Walker, as well?
That's right, Angela Walker. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm in Syracuse, New York, not New York City. It's about 4 hours upstate. And I'm a retired Teamster. Before that, I did construction work, but that was to pay the bills. I've been an activist in civil rights, anti-war, unions, the environment since the 1960s. I came up in the San Francisco Bay Area and got engaged as a teenager in what we called the movement back then. And I've committed at that time to independent politics because I saw the Democrats and Republicans in 1964 opposing or at least dragging their feet on civil rights. And then they both got behind the escalation of the war in Vietnam. So I was asking, where's my party? And I've been involved in the Green Party since our first national organizing meeting in 1984. And the Greens have run me for governor 3 times in New York, each time getting enough votes to get a ballot line. And I wasn't planning on running for president, but Greens around the country drafted me in early 2019. So here I am.
Well, I met you in a completely different way. Was in 2008 when Ralph Nader ran for ballot, and we had all these signatures, or you did. I don't remember the dynamics. It was kind of overseeing 50 states, but I do remember handing over or being around you when all the petitions, the signatures were there, and you were so organized, hands-on. You knew all the details of the ballot access laws in New York. So right there, that just tells me how real you are. I mean, you've done some of the hardest work to get where you are today. It's not like you just jumped in and ran for president. So can you tell us a little bit about that experience, a little more detail on the ballot access side for maybe even just the Green Party overall in New York?
Well, ballot access in the United States is off the charts compared to other electoral democracies. If you compare running for the national legislatures, in the United States, in most states, it takes thousands of signatures to run as an independent without a ballot line for Congress. In New York, it's 3,500 signatures you got to collect in 6 weeks. You really need 7,000, double that to be safe, because you'll be challenged by the Democrats. And then in Illinois, it's over 15,000 signatures. In Georgia, it's over 20,000. Alabama, over 30,000. Indiana, over 40,000. And people wonder why there aren't more options on the ballot. It's because we can't get on the ballot. You want to run for the House of Commons in the United Kingdom, it's 10 signatures. You want to run for the Parliament in New Zealand, it's 2 signatures. In Canada, their parliament is 100 signatures, except the rural ridings, it's 50 signatures because they're spread out. And we're thousands of signatures. And then when you go to presidential ballots, you've got to deal with 51 different jurisdictions, counting the District of Columbia. And they all have different standards to get on the ballot. Certain number of signatures, certain deadlines. You can't start till certain times. So you got to learn all that. And then when you do submit your petitions, in our case, the Democrats challenge whenever they can. So right now we're in court in about 5 states, partly because the Democrats challenged us. We're in court in Oklahoma because they have a $35,000 filing fee. which we consider a poll tax. The next highest fee, I think, is $2,500 for U.S. Senate. So, we went to court to say that fee is unconstitutional. So it's a big battle. And I got the nomination from the Green Party on July 11th. And every waking hour, and there haven't been that many sleeping hours, has been trying to get on the ballot. And it's especially difficult this year because of the pandemic. It's against public health guidelines to go out there and ask for physical signatures. So we asked a lot of state governments for relief. And some state governments gave it to us and some didn't. And right now, I think we're on about 35 state ballots. There are 3 more petitions due Friday. And even where we have a ballot line, the state party's got to fill paperwork out. And sometimes that's like herding cats. So it's been a full-time job all summer, just trying to get on the damn ballot so that we can bring our issues to the table.
Yeah, it's clearly one of many protect the incumbent acts that the two-party, really one-party duopoly, the people in Congress, Ds and Rs alike, implement. Truly unconstitutional, far more signature requirements for alternative parties and even independent candidates for president. I think it's over 800,000 signatures, give or take, if you run as an independent for president versus 25,000 or so for Ds and Rs to get on the ballot in all 50 states. So
I think it's more like 1.5 million.
True, because you got to collect at least twice as many, and then when you're truly a threat to the system. I mean, how they use the judicial system to knock independent-minded candidates off the ballot, alternative party candidates like you, the Green, and other parties as well.
Yeah, the figure I remember, 800,000 is about what we needed, but we already had 21 state ballot lines where we didn't have to petition. So we got 800,000, but with another 30 states, I think it's more like 1.5 million. And then you got to, get substantially more than that. And, I would say we have a problem of voter suppression in this country, particularly coming from the Republicans. We're doing this cross-check thing where if people with similar names are in different states, they knock them off the ballot. They say if you didn't vote in 2 federal elections, they send you a postcard that looks like a contract. And if you don't return that, they knock you off the ballot. So Greg Palast, the journalist, has figured about 17 million people that are eligible to vote have been knocked off the ballot. And they're disproportionately ethnic minorities and young people who are more likely to be Democrats. But it's not just the Republicans. The Democrats, party suppression is part of voter suppression. Our presidential candidate in 2016, Jill Stein, 61% of her voters would not have voted if she had not been on the ballot, according to the exit polls that year. So we bring new voters to the polls, but when the Democrats knock us off the ballot or make it harder to get on the ballot, that's suppressing the vote. Here in New York, Governor Cuomo, under the cover of the pandemic, got a new law passed with the state budget that triples the number of votes we need to keep our ballot line, doubles the frequency we need to get that standard from every 4 years to every 2 years. And if we lose the ballot line, we have to get 45,000 signatures in 6 weeks to get on as independents. And when the New York Times found out about this scheme, the headline read, "The Democrats' secret plan to kill third parties." So, and another thing is when we, say Pennsylvania, where the Democrats have challenged our signatures, a lot of people sign our petitions thinking they're registered to vote. But because of this, these systems where they purge the voter rolls because you didn't vote in the last 2 federal elections, a lot of people that think they're registered to vote signed our petitions and they've been knocked off the ballot. And that was a Republican initiative, but the Democrats are using it to challenge our signatures. So I think we need international election observers. We've been criticized by the, Helsinki Watch, which was set up during the Ford administration to basically be critical of the Soviet bloc and their governmental practices and lack of democracy. But in recent decades, since the Soviet bloc fell apart, the criticism has been directed more at the United States for unfair elections.
Well, I'm with you, Howie. I mean, talking to Libertarian Party candidates, they would say the same thing about how the Democratic Party candidates treat them, you being a Green, the Republican, from Free and Equal's perspective, it's like a business between the D's and R's, and you're not invited to the party, and nor are the Libertarians, and nor are any of the 19 candidates. I want to thank you so much for being such a vital part of our presidential debate this last March at Chicago Hilton. That was new territory for us to do one before the primary, but we went with it. I want to thank you for that so much, Howie. And I see Katrina Kierfeld said, turning in from Kentucky, where we are collecting signatures this week. We need 5,000 here. So there's a call out, Howie. I want to hear more about the Green Party platform, but please plug the website right now where people can actually help gather signatures for you, and then let's get just an overall perspective of what you stand for in the Green Party as well.
Okay, well, the website is howiehawkins.us, and there you can find our positions. You can volunteer, you can donate, you can send us messages and tell us what you think. And I started this race around 3 life or death issues. The climate crisis was one of them. I was the first candidate in the United States to campaign for a Green New Deal in 2010, and that became the signature issue of the Green Party in the 2010s. Our presidential candidate, Jill Stein, her theme was the Green New Deal for America. And what happened at the end of 2018 was the Sunrise Movement and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sat in Nancy Pelosi's office saying, we want a Green New Deal. And it got a lot of attention. The media ate it up. It went viral. And then they had a poll, and it showed over 80% of Americans want a Green New Deal, including 64% of Republicans, who until that point, were seen as climate change deniers. Unfortunately, the Democrats took the slogan and diluted the content. So we're campaigning for a full-strength Green New Deal. They extended the deadline from 2030 to 2050 to get to zero to negative greenhouse gas emissions and 100% clean energy. They eliminated the ban on fracking and new fossil fuel infrastructure. And that's the frontline demand of the climate justice movement. So we're saying we want a full strength Green New Deal. That's the first life or death issue. And as part of our Green New Deal, we always had an economic Bill of Rights to end poverty and economic despair. And we're in a situation now where working class people's life expectancies are in decline in this country. So we want to provide relief for these people. So we want a job guarantee, guaranteed income above poverty, Medicare for all, affordable housing available to everybody, lifelong public education from pre-K and childcare through post-secondary, college, trade schools, and continuing adult education, and a secure retirement. And we would just double Social Security benefits so every senior has an income above poverty. And then the third life or death issue, which none of the presidential candidates have talked about, is this new nuclear arms race. The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists has moved their doomsday clock the closest it's ever been to midnight, because the U.S. undertook a modernization of its nuclear forces under the Obama administration, continued under the Trump administration, and then Russia and China have followed suit. So we now have hypersonic strategic missiles that are 6 times faster than the old ones. So it's no longer you launch on warning when you think the other side launched and your radar tell you that. You launch in anticipation. And the tactical nukes there are more of them in conventional forces with a really stupid military doctrine called escalate to de-escalate. Both the United States and Russia have this. And that is, if you're in a conventional war and you're losing, you use tactical nukes to throw back the other side. And then you're supposed to de-escalate. But as Daniel Ellsberg showed in his Doomsday Machine, which was his second Pentagon Papers, he was a nuclear war planner before he was a Vietnam War planner. Once one nuke flies, they all fly. It's automated. That's the Doomsday Machine. We got one, Russia's got one. And so what we're calling for are peace initiatives to reduce tensions and open the door to nuclear disarmament negotiations. So we want to cut the military budget by 75%. We want to get out of these 9 shooting wars, the endless wars we're in. We want to start withdrawing from over 800 foreign military bases. Pledge no first use of nuclear weapons. Disarm to a minimum credible deterrent. And then go to these other nuclear powers and say, we're not a threat anymore. Let's negotiate nuclear disarmament and go there with world public opinion. 3 years ago, 122 nations agreed to the text of a treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons. The International Campaign for the Abolition of Nuclear Weapons got the Nobel Peace Prize for that. And hardly anybody in this country knows that because the two major party leadership and their presidential candidates aren't even talking about it, because they both support this nuclear modernization program, which has destabilized the balance of terror. This should be a top campaign issue, and it's not being discussed. So those were the three we started with. And since then, we've had this pandemic, and Trump, you know, he's like a child. He makes believe. He's COVID wins, he's a loser. But Biden's been AWOL. He could have been out there. He's within commuter distance of the White House press corps. He used to commute to the Senate. He could convene them like Governor Cuomo in New York did and have news conferences on cable, pounding away that we need more testing, tracing the people that are infected, and then isolating those people so we can suppress community spread of the virus. So we go back to work and school safely. And instead, we're now up to 185,000 deaths, 250,000 expected by the election. And I would say Biden is complicit in that because he is not using his platform to provide leadership and point in a direction. And then we have the other crisis which has come up, and that is the centuries-old pandemic of racism, which people of color have known about, but now that we see it in living color on our TV screens, a lot of white people are upset too. So people have been out in the streets saying, we got to end this police brutality and systemic racism. And what Angela Walker, my running mate, are saying that movement should raise as demands is, one, community control of the police. As long as they police themselves, they're going to get away with these crimes. We can't leave it to internal affairs. So we need police commissions that are either elected by the public or even selected by lot, like juries are, that have the power to hire and fire the police chief, oversee policies and budgets, and independently investigate and discipline misconduct. The other thing is we got to end this war on drugs, which has led to mass incarceration. We want to legalize marijuana and decriminalize the hard drugs like they did in Portugal, where people don't get a criminal charge, they get a violation, and they show up at a hearing with a doctor, a social worker, and a lawyer. So look at their situation and see how they could be helped. Do they need a job? Do they need drug treatment? Do they need to talk to somebody? Do they need counseling? Are they using the drugs to cope with other problems? And the result in Portugal has been basically the elimination of drug overdose deaths, the spread of HIV, street-related drug crime, and actually less people use the hard drugs now than when they were being put in prison. So we think that's the program we need. And then finally, they talk about defunding the police. You could take all the money in police departments and it won't be enough to provide the housing for the homeless, the drug treatment for the addicted, the help for the people that have mental issues, these things that the police are called in to deal with, that's not really their job. So we need a big federal program to invest in these communities, housing, healthcare, schools, jobs, these communities that have been segregated, discriminated, and exploited for generations. And, you know, we talk about the violence in these poor communities, so that's rooted in poverty. So that's the kind of program we need. So those are some of the things we've been raising on that issue. So there are 5 or life or death issues that we're trying to get into the national debate.
Well, speaking of money and cutting back, you know, maybe the military industrial complex, but how, you know, I'm reading Lee Camp's book right now, talking about how $21 trillion, it just kind of vanished. I can send a link on that after the interview, but I'm just literally diving into it now. It's like we have this corrupt system government where there's just no endless printing of the Federal Reserve note, which really should be called a private note because the Federal Reserve is a private institution. It's anything but federal. And I'm definitely with you on decriminalizing drugs like Portugal. Gosh, I do foresee one day we're going to elect leaders. It might start with Congress first in 22 and so on. You know, they're making it really easy for us to replace them all. And when you talk about the dialogue and getting into the national debates, or really the Commission on Presidential Debates, what are your thoughts on the CBD? I already know, but for our viewers out there, and my apology, my charger, I did a rookie error. and I did all this setup, and I didn't put the charger in my lap. That was my first time. So I'm going to go snag that really quick. It'd be like 30 seconds. So the Commission on Presidential Debates, ideas. Are you going to get into the CPD? What are your thoughts on the CPD?
You want me to answer that while you do your fix there?
What's that? Yeah, just a moment. I'm going to grab my charger. Right.
Okay.
All right. Pretty sure it would last, but I'm not going to risk it. So
I actually did the same mistake. I always bring my charger, but I ran over here rushing around today, and so I still got 36% of my charge left. So hopefully that'll last.
I was getting down to 10. I'm like, all right, we're all just focused on all the other setups and the basic part. So yeah, and by the way, people listening, I see lots of comments. If you have questions, this is the time to put them in the comments. I'll definitely like to share one or two with Howie. Go ahead, Howie.
Well, you were asking about the Commission on Presidential Debates, which sounds like an official government agency. In fact, it's a private corporation controlled by the Democrats and Republicans. And it was set up in the late 80s in order to keep other candidates out of the debates. So they supposedly have some objective criteria. You got to raise millions of dollars. You got to be over 15% in 3 polls that they pick. And it's a sort of chicken and egg problem. If you're not in the debates, how are people going to know you're running? So you can't get 15%. So it's a setup. I think we should urge the League of Women Voters to take back the presidential debates or a similar civic organization. They were muscled aside in 1988 when Michael Dukakis and George H.W. Bush started making demands on how the debate should go. And the League was saying, you know, that's unacceptable to us. So they just muscled aside the League of Women Voters. And unfortunately, the corporate media has gone with the two-party leaders rather than with a civic organization and tell the main major party candidates, we're setting up the debate, you're invited. And I think they ought to invite, one reasonable standard is every candidate or every presidential ticket that is on enough ballots to win the Electoral College. And in this election, that would be Greens and Libertarians as well as Democrats and Republicans. And I think that would serve the American people. They deserve to know what all their options are and really have a good debate of the issues. You know, the Democrats and Republicans only debate things within a narrow spectrum. For example, on the nuclear arms race, they're not even going to talk about that. They're both behind the modernization of our nuclear forces, which has destabilized the world and put us on the brink of a nuclear war. And somebody who has a different point of view ought to be in those debates. I think both the Greens and the Libertarians are critical of the major party position on that question. So unfortunately, the American people won't hear about it in the debates that they'll see on TV.
Well, it depends what TV.
Well,
but
yeah,
as you may already know, we're gearing up for our second presidential debate this year. First one after the primary. We're slated. We have a venue in Denver, Colorado, October 8th. So please, you'll be expecting an invitation, Howie, to actually be there in person in Denver. And we'll keep it just the candidates and production crew and really focus our efforts on the live stream side and high level production. So we definitely, it's kind of interesting, Howie, I hear you with, you know, Joe Jorgensen's a Libertarian Party presidential candidate. I can tell you there has been a pattern, 08, 12, 16, and now maybe even 20, hopefully not, where the most difficult part of, I find, in putting on presidential debates is getting candidates to confirm. Every cycle in 08, I couldn't get Ralph Nader to debate with Cynthia McKinney, and I think was it Chuck Baldwin at the time. You know, other parties, you know, Green Party and Constitution, he only wanted to debate Bob Barr, or Bob Barr said he would only debate Ralph Nader, the Libertarian, and Ralph's like, I'll only do a debate if Bob Barr's there. I'm like, Ralph, what's up? How does that make you any different from the Commission on Presidential Debates? that's how the D's and R's feel about you guys. They just wanted to be the two of them. And the same thing really happened. 12 was cool. 2012, we had Larry King, and that really, brought in candidates. So it was kind of last minute from, I think, the Green Party or Libertarian. That's how it goes. 16, it was like, Jill Stein and Gary Johnson forgot about us. They wanted to just debate each other. They were too big, to be with other candidates. It's like, Gary, Jill, we got the most exposure in 12 because of free and equal elections. I mean, really them being there, it was hand in hand together, helped each other out. So that was just an interesting dynamic. This cycle, we hope to have Jo Jorgensen in our debate again. She was there in March, but very influential people around me are saying that she really wants to get in that commission on presidential debates. And so we hope to have her in the sessions. She said yes, but we have not heard from her, and we keep reaching out over and over. So, hopefully we can get her to say yes early on so we can promote this instead of last minute, because the commission on presidential debates, if I were in a position like you or Joe, personally, I wouldn't even want to be on that platform. It is infiltrated. It's corrupt. It can't be trusted. I mean, it's just so dirty. So I really hope that you and Joe make it easy for us, and really recognizing it's bigger than any one person, right, Howie? It's bigger than you. It's bigger than Joe. It's bigger than all the 18 other candidates, 16 other candidates in our debate this March. There were dozens more that wanted to be in that presidential debate. So I just really hope we can break through and realize that we need to have an alternative or a debate platform that truly allows all different ideas of all different types across the spectrum, peaceful ideas, to come together, right? Because through conversation, that's how we bring about solutions. Thanks for hearing me out.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there, except, I don't care if it's corrupt and Trump lies every time his lips move, and Biden tries to say nothing to offend nobody, so nobody gets enthusiastic about him. I'm ready to debate Biden and Trump. I don't think they're ready to debate me, but I'll debate anybody. I think that
they're invited to our debate too, Howie.
Huh?
We'll send an invite to Trump and Biden too. They're invited every cycle. We've always invited the D's and R's. And
Sure.
I see Tony down here says, why don't Howie and Joe live stream their own debates? Totally. Like in 16, Gary Johnson and Jill Stein live streamed their own debate, and they started off saying 2 voices, 2 choices in the debate. And that was like, because our slogan's more voices, more choices. Like, oh, you guys, it's so undeserving. But hey, that's just how it goes. Can't control that. Wouldn't want to. But yeah, I mean, with like, we are open to doing 2 debates this fall. We're committed to one, October 8th, but we're open to, if we have more than 2 participating, doing a blockchain voting through instant runoff voting and or approval voting, score voting. And on the blockchain ledger that we're building through Free and Equal and Nexus Earth is building Colin Cantrell, Chuck Williams, and more coding. We'll let the people decide who would be in the second round of debates. So we could do that. And of course, you guys can always do your own debate too. So more debates, the better. Yeah,
actually, Ralph Nader used to suggest that you have early debates and then take polls and have a process of elimination and runoffs until you get down to the last few candidates. That would be a much more fair way to do it. So yeah. That's an interesting idea.
And it's no coincidence that the Commission on Presidential Debate has this rule that you can only participate in their debate and no other debate. So you have newer candidates like Jo Jorgensen that just have this hope. And it's just, I'm an optimist, but a realist, like that they're going to get in it so they won't accept any other debate, when they could be spending all this time to promote a platform that truly supports viewpoints across the spectrum, yours, hers, and so many other parties and independents that are running as well. So
yeah, well, I think the real villain here is the corporate media, because if they didn't cooperate with the 2 major parties, the Commission on Presidential Debates wouldn't be able to pull off their scam. And unfortunately, the corporate media is acting like state media stenographers for the 2-party corporate state. And, the Fox is Republican and MSNBC are as they call it, MSDNC is Democratic, and CNN is more with MSNBC, although they do bring more Republicans on. But outside of that, we're getting less coverage from the mainstream media than Greens in previous elections have. It's been pretty much a total blackout. I've got much more coverage from England, Germany, Spain, Morocco, Russia, and particularly Latin America. And those people know more about our electoral system if they've, seen these interviews or read the articles than Americans do. Most Americans say, well, there's no third party because they didn't want to run. We can't get on the damn ballot. That's the problem.
One of many problems, and I've definitely, that's exactly what we experienced in 2012. Our debates are the only debate to be nationally televised outside of the Commission on Presidential Debates. We've been nationally televised on C-SPAN and Al Jazeera, RT America, and PBS has covered us, and so on in the past. But the international media, Howie, I think I had 50 to 100 interviews from like all around the country, Spain, Brazil, Portugal, to cover that debate in 2012. And it just was such a media blackout, right, in the United States of America. The debate this October 8th in Denver, we do have interest of partners to host the committee, including, put this one on your radar, Howie, the National Association of Nonpartisan Reformers and its 40 plus dues paying members organizations, the Bridge Alliance, and its 150 member organizations and voices of the nonpartisan movement, including we are in touch with the League of Women Voters. I've spoken with them of the U.S. and Unite America, Independent Voter Network, Represent.us, and many more. So we'll see. That might happen this October 8th. I think definitely in the next presidential cycle, support from you and other candidates that hopefully are able to make it there will help increase those chances. We have so many comments here, Howie. I just have to read a few out. I don't even know where to start. Yeah, Brandon Deeker is turning in from South Florida. Signatures. My wife and I are done with the Democratic Party, going green in 2020. Robert Austin, Howie Hawkins, Angela Walker, 2020 workers in the White House. Joshua Hellman, thank you for giving Howie a chance to reach more people and for all your work, all to try and give third-party independent candidates a voice and a forum. You can thank me, but thank our Free and Equal team. They are like the glue and that keeps us going. And Katrina, again, thank you for founding Free and Equal. That's sweet. Heath, all we need is 35% to win the White House in a three-way race, not 51%. There you go. And it keeps going on and on. Gosh, you're welcome, Joshua. Awesome to hear Free and Equal is hosting a general election debate. I'll be sure to share it widely for democracy's sake. That's cool. Love that. I'm voting green to save lives. Antonius Vaz. I am conscious of the international, that is it prolariat in making my decision. Policy is what I look at, and that's why I endorse Howie and Angela. So that's pretty cool. Will it be a VP debate? We've done it in the past. It costs money. So I'm committed to one debate this fall. It costs some money. It's still paying off for March, but almost all paid off.
Why not bring us all there on October 8th?
What's that?
Why not bring the whole ticket, both candidates there on October 8th?
It's more energy, more resources, more money. But if 100 of organizations and supporters and sponsors hop on board, I'm open to it. I'm open to that idea. So might as well double dip, right, Howie? I mean, we already did 2 debates in March, so I mean, back to back. So.
I just want people to meet my vice presidential running mate, Angela Walker, who's an incredible candidate. Somebody said 2 workers for the White House. She's driving a dump truck right now. How many people run for president know the experience of working people in this country? And she's not just a dump truck driver. She ran as an independent socialist for sheriff in Milwaukee back in 2014 against Dave Walker, who people seen on TV. He's the black guy with a cowboy hat that loves Donald Trump, who was saying in Milwaukee, don't call 911, get a gun. And her program was let's fight fight crime by fighting poverty. She got 20% of the vote. And she's just a transit driver at that time. She was the legislative director of her local union, got him involved in the Wisconsin uprising, to defend public employee collective bargaining rights, and then got her union involved in the Occupy movement. So she's a veteran labor and racial justice activist that I'm really happy she's on the ticket, because she's a great messenger for the Green Party.
Angela, thank you as well for running, and definitely need more women out there running, and all ages and all races. It's just, it doesn't even, that stuff just doesn't matter. It's all in the heart, right? And thank you, Howie, for being a candidate that you may not agree with all of the viewpoints. You may agree with all of Howie's viewpoints, but whatever, it's just wonderful to have, you know, more voices and more choices out there. And in the age of so much suppression and intentional censorship and confusion by the system, powers that be, and Hollywood and banksters and just, yeah, it goes on and on, Murdoch and the mainstream media, the time to unite is needed more than ever. So Howie, we see through the fear, our core free and equal team. We know that love will win, that love is greater than fear. We do see through the fear of this coronavirus. We just do. We are moving forward with United. We stand on the ground in real time, the September 22nd through the 29th. So it's a private event we'll be having out in New Mexico, and it'll be artists and core team, and we're just going to be pumping up that live stream. Howie, somebody, Katrina here says, how much do we need to donate to get Angela to debate? The presidential debate in March costs easily probably 30,000 plus. And I was out of pocket 10,000 or so from that, and I've almost got it paid off. So I am all in. And our Larry King debate in 2012 cost us upward of 200,000, but we reached hundreds of thousands or more throughout the world, if not up to 1 billion reached. But I like to lowball it. So yeah, that's you can learn more about it freeandequal.org. Howie, some final words for the Green Party. I feel like I could keep talking about the wasted vote if you have a little more time. We need to wrap up, but it's no wasted vote voting for your conscience, right, Howie?
Yeah, I would say if you're a socialist or a progressive and you vote for Joe Biden, you wasted your vote. Huh. It's not us spoiling the election, it's the Democrats and Joe Biden, because we've been giving them the proven nonpartisan solution to spoil elections in the presidential election. And that is to replace the Electoral College with a ranked choice national popular vote. Problem solved. And the Democrats like to scapegoat the Greens for losing to George W. Bush and then Donald Trump. But it was suppression, particularly of the black vote, over 100,000 in Florida in 2000. There's 75,000 ballots in Detroit that were never counted because the Republican Secretary of State sent in broken scanners to a lot of precincts. And then it was the Greens, not the Democrats, who took the state to court to get those ballots counted. And in the court, the Republican Secretary of State argued, well, we got more ballots than were scanned. So something funny's going on here, so we shouldn't do a recount. But they had all the ballots. And the Greens were saying that's why we need a recount. And the Clinton lawyers were present, and the judge asked them, well, do you want to say anything about this? And they said, oh, no, we're just observing. And so they want to blame the Greens for the fact that Clinton lost Michigan by 10,000 votes. You know, 75,000 votes in Detroit would have been overwhelmingly for Clinton. That would have been a Democratic vote. That's an overwhelmingly black city. And so, you know, shame on you if you vote for that party that won't even defend itself. If you're for Medicare for all and a full strength Green New Deal, and for cutting the military budget and putting it into human needs and protecting the environment, and you vote for Joe Biden, he's opposed to those things. And if you're some kind of progressive, they don't know that. You get lost in the sauce. You voted for Joe Biden, you know, a neoliberal hawk. That's a wasted vote. You vote for the green ticket, everybody knows we're for Medicare for all and a Green New Deal and all those progressive policies. And if you you give your vote to Biden, nobody knows you stood for those things. So, people try to shame people into voting for Biden to defeat Trump. Well, a green vote is not a Trump vote. It's in the green column. Question is, how are you going to vote against Trump? And I would say if you're a progressive or a socialist, that green vote, that green ticket is where your vote should be. Because if you vote for Biden, you're voting against what you supposedly are for. So that's my pitch on the so-called spoiled vote. We're not spoiling the election, the Democrats are. And don't waste your vote on what you don't want. Vote for what you want.
Thanks, Howie. Yeah, the Democrats and Republicans and the business that they've created amongst themselves, because they are friends behind the scenes. I love the 3 words you just used there. Really struck a chord, is shame on you. And you are right, Howie. Shame on you. Those people in office, we see right through you. It's actually the name of the first song I've written. I've been playing the guitar. I'm pretty new. 64 Gibson I got for Christmas this year from my Aunt Betty. And in the song "Shame on You," the positive parts is that we will rise and run. I put in there, thousands will come when we replace all of you. The disease will be done, because the root of the problem is Congress and beyond. And it really ends on the note of the time is near, Howie, that the people will see love is greater than fear. So, Howie, thank you so much. You go to howiehawkins.us. I look forward to hopefully seeing you at our debate October 8th. I see Katrina saying maybe we could do a fundraiser to get Angela and the other VP to the October 8th debate. I am so willing to share our financials and budgets. I do not make a dime off the debates, but I'm, prefer not to go into personal debt again like I did in March, because Chicago Hilton was didn't realize union fees would be as high as they were there, but they did a great job. Howie, thank you so much again for everything you do and joining us on the sessions. Any final words for our viewers?
Vote green in 2020 and make your vote count. Don't waste it.
There you go. Lots of love. Take care, Howie. See you on the road and hopefully at United We Stand.
All right.
You're welcome to come speak on our stage. Lots of love.
Thank you.
Thank you.